When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does online business better than Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/income.
USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at usaa.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
Here we go, and this is going to be a very energetic session because we're talking kind of about energy and a novel approach to carbon removal. So technologies to do with energy, how we produce it, what we do with it, and then the byproducts of energy and what that means for all of us in terms of innovation and what we might see in the future. And it's all coming up right here on this edition of Somewhere on Earth. And with us today is the excellent Angelica Mari. So this is a home game for you, isn't it? Because we're here in Brazil.
Yeah, would you believe that?
I wouldn't believe it.
It's so exciting.
I know. We've done this many times in London or, remotely, but here we are in your home country. It's not your home city, is it? But Rio de Janeiro will just have to do on a beautiful sunny day.
Yeah, I can do with the good weather as well. As people would have heard, São Paulo was dreadful, so yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Lovely. And let's jump in. Okay, so I mentioned that we're talking about energy today and all things related to it. And we're going to start with Pedro Somma, who's CEO of Luz Energia. And just tell me what you guys do.
Hi, Gareth. Thank you for having me. Welcome to Brazil. I hope we're treating you well.
Yeah, thoroughly.
Amazing. Actually, Luz is a sun as a service, as I like to call it. But we basically allow people who cannot afford to build their solar systems in their home to generate energy, for them to have this kind of energy, which is clean, which is digital, remotely. So it's a very innovative way to have sun as a solar energy in their homes.
Yeah, so how does that work exactly? Because I just assumed that you needed the panel on your roof in order to feed your electricity and charge your batteries for the overnight element. So tell us a little bit more, in a bit more detail, what the technology is and how it works.
Yeah. It's a first assumption, actually. Until like 10 years ago, it was just like that in Brazil. But we managed to create a new regulation, a new law, a new way to have that, as we call it here, distributed generation, in which any person can build a solar energy power plant, in which we have 21, and allow any person to actually get energy from those plants. So it's like a subscription. It's just like a subscription. You enter in our website. You say to us where you live, and we, if possible, if we are attending your region, we can supply you full sun with sun as a service energy.
Yeah. So is your IP, as it were, the creating a service and a interface and an app, I guess, or are you actually physically manufacturing solar infrastructure yourselves?
We actually have we need to have the infrastructure. So we built 21 power plants. We have to do the maintenance. We have to take care of it. We even have some ships in some of the power plants to help us with the grass. So if the grass is too tall, the panels won't work fine. So we have ships for that. It's cheaper than building something else for that. So we have to take care of the physical stuff as well.
So yeah, Angelica, the first business that I think we've had on Somewhere on Earth where sheep are on the payroll. That is quite something, isn't it?
Yeah, quite right. So perhaps I could add to what Pedro is discussing here with the findings of a study that we've done for them. As people that listen to us on Somewhere on Earth don't know that I also have a research company that looks into future scenarios, futuros possíveis. So we've done a study for them, and we are releasing the first findings here at Web Summit. And something interesting for us to discuss when we talk about democratization to access to solar power is predictability on energy bills. So this is one of the key findings of our research. So it's a sample size of over 2,000 people that we spoke to, and 96% of them want predictability on their energy bills. They want to know how much they're paying at the end of the month. So this was the subject of a panel we just finished here, and it's something that is going to guide a lot of discussions in Brazil going forward in the scenario of market opening, market deregulation.
Yeah, and to me that wouldn't be too much of a surprise that, especially less well-off people want a bit more predictability. But I think what you're bringing in this study is perhaps a little bit more of the background to why that might be the case, and what maybe the policy implications are, or indeed, I guess for you, Pedro, things that you can fold back into your own business so you can better serve the people that you're supplying.
Yeah, because that's the thing of Brazil right now. The energy sector here is still very, very hard to deal with. So we have a lot of monopolies. We need to deal with the regular distribution systems. So for us to try to serve these customers about their needs goes through some kind of deregulation and modernization of the laws here. So to give you an example of the different solutions for that, in UK you have something called Luz Energia.
Oh yeah.
Yes, so it's very famous there, and we kind of get inspiration from them because in UK you already have an open market, an open energy system. So for that, it's easier to supply that kind of information, that kind of service that in Brazil is actually some kind of very hard for us.
And open energy is an interesting concept, right? It's very similar to what you get on open finance, whereby you provide the bank with your transaction details, and you might get better offers in terms of a loan and so on. So we're looking at a future where customers in Brazil might be able to access just that, isn't it, Pedro?
Yes. So we're the first company in Brazil that is actually supplying our customers with a smart meter. We install this in their homes so they can access, they can see through the app where they're expending energy in their homes. So you can see if your refrigerator is efficient or not. You can see if someone is using too much light. So it's the first time Brazil is actually seeing those kind of things, and that's only because we are being able to try to connect with the customer and create ways for us to fight the system.
Sure. Okay. So putting people in charge of their data.
Exactly.
We've seen how it's beginning to, and already has, in many ways, revolutionised finance and personal finance. Bring that across to energy, really, is part of what you're doing. Yeah. Pedro, thank you very much indeed.
Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for this day.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
You know that feeling when someone shows up for you just when you need it most? That's what Uber is all about. Not just a ride or dinner at your door. It's how Uber helps you show up for the moments that matter. Because showing up can turn a tough day around or make a good one even better. Whatever it is, big or small, Uber is on the way. So you can be on yours. Uber, on our way.
Okay, so what about the byproducts of energy? And of course, we all know about CO2 and its effect on the environment and warming and so on. So many ways and approaches and technologies to do with reducing the CO2 that we emit. But also, what about dealing with the CO2 that is out there in the atmosphere as an inevitable byproduct of everything that we do in our lives? This is where we're going to bring in Julia Marissa Sekula, who's the CFO of a company called Terradot. Julia, welcome along to Somewhere on Earth. Nice to see you.
Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Tell me about Terradot. What do you do?
Absolutely. So the big question that we asked ourselves with Terradot in the very beginning was we need to remove a lot of CO2 from the atmosphere. There are a lot of very expensive, very infrastructure-heavy ways to do that today. What would be a cheaper, scalable way to go about it? In trying to answer that question, we looked to nature. And so we found out that nature actually captures carbon in a permanent way through rocks. Specific silicate rocks that are high in magnesium and calcium, and that basically over geologic time have been capturing carbon. The problem is that over geologic time is not significant enough for us, right? We need to be able to do this in 5 years, not 100 years. And so we discovered that if you take these same rocks, you crush them up, and you apply them on agricultural land, you can speed up that carbon capture process significantly so that you're capturing it in 5 years as opposed to massive long time spans. Until then, you can say, wow, what a perfect solution. The big missing piece was really the technology and the science for you to be able to measure that and verify that at a very, very high confidence interval. And so that's what we do.
Wow. And can you give me a sense then of, like, well, for one thing, like how it works? So I get that you've got crushed rocks. They say they're silicate rocks.
Yeah.
They have a particular molecular structure, I suppose. We don't want to get too far into the science. You'll know a lot more about it than I do. But anyway, they're receptive to carbon dioxide. They take it in. So what, do you just have trays of this stuff lying around on mountain tops? Tell me a little bit more in practice of what it looks like.
So the good news is that, in a way, yes. Quarries have this as a byproduct. So a normal construction quarry, for example, that's been built for paving roads and building buildings, they have this as a byproduct, but you also have big mining companies that have this as a waste product. And so what we're doing not only removes carbon, but tries to tap into an element of circular economy to take advantage of those things. We test it, obviously, to make sure that it's exactly the composition that we need, and then we apply it on agricultural land as well. And in Brazil, those two things exist in abundance.
Where are we at with your technology then? Because clearly you'll be on the prototype stage is what I want to get to.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've obviously been doing research over many years. One of our co-founders, Scott Frendorf, he's the dean of, one of the associate deans of the School of Climate at Stanford, and he's been studying this for 20 years. Over the last 3-4 years, we've been looking to apply that science in the real world. So we've been in Brazil developing projects since November 2023, so a year and a half, thereabouts. We've been very lucky that our science and our technology has progressed tremendously, so much so that we've been able to sign very meaningful contracts on the back end of last year.
How efficient is it? Like for every ton of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, how much is taken out through this process? So
basically the calculus that we do is a little bit different, which is for every 5 tons of rock, we're able to capture 1 ton of CO2, of basalt. And you can do that over and over again, right? And over thousands and thousands of hectares. So if you're thinking about potential in a place like Brazil, our calculations show that we have something in the region of 1 gigaton of potential in Brazil alone, with existing rock and existing land. If you look at, the Brazil's national emissions, they're somewhere in the region of 2.4, 2.5. So you're looking at nearly half of that. Definitely relevant.
Is there a carbon cost here, though? I'm just trying to think. I mean, are you relying on the rock that happening to just be in the right place at the right time, or are you having to expend a lot of energy to quarry the stuff to get it to where it needs to be, and then
it's a great
end
question.
up, kind of mitigating any benefit that you've achieved?
Absolutely. So that's a great question, and it's a calculus we take very seriously and put into our net CDR number. So in the case of the quarries, we take account all the emissions they've had in order to actually quarry, mine for that rock, all the emissions related to crushing that rock, And there you have another additional benefit of being in Brazil, which is that because our electricity matrix is predominantly clean, right, 90% thereabouts, all the machinery that's plugged into the crushing of the rock is electric. And so we take less of a discount on our carbon credits than you would in any other region in the world.
You're doing a few tie-ups with various big names, aren't you? Microsoft springs to mind.
Yeah, absolutely. We're very lucky to sign with Microsoft. It was announced just a couple of weeks ago. We also signed Google's largest CDR deal in ERW ever, and Frontier as well in the back of last year. And Frontier obviously does an incredible job of providing that catalytic capital for carbon removal.
Right, so that'd be 12,000 tons of CO2 with Microsoft.
Well, Microsoft is 12,000, Google is 300,000, and Frontier is 90,000. So we're nearing 400,000 tons with all of it.
So how does that work in practice for a client? Say Google then, do they say, well look, we're going to write the check and then you go off to the quarry and go and get the rock? I'm just trying to see, Is this CO2 removal as a service?
Yeah. So yes, it looks a little bit like that. We identify the quarries that we want to work with, we identify the farmers that we want to work with and where we want to apply the rock. But the big secret or the big thing that these customers are looking for is the science and the technology, right? So most of the money actually, even from these offtake deals, is going to do the science and the technology to be able to measure and verify, not the rock or specifically the farmland.
Okay. Where next then? What's the future looking like for you?
Well, our goal is to scale this to nation scale in Brazil. We think Brazil is a very special place to do this. First, because of what I mentioned earlier, right? All this potential, gigaton potential, but it's a country where 25% of our GDP depends on agriculture, increasingly facing the effects of climate change. So the view is expand into Brazil and then expand into the rest of the tropics.
Okay. The inevitable question is, shouldn't we just be concentrating on stopping the CO2 getting into the atmosphere in the first place? The greener practices, greening up industry and so on. By the time you come in, it's too late really, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the answer to that is, at this point, I think we need all hands on deck and everybody doing a little bit of everything. So we hope to do our part.
Absolutely. Well, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. That's Julia Marissa Sekula, CFO of Terradot, talking to us here at the Web Summit, having a fantastic time here in Rio de Janeiro.
Where the conversations continue, in this case with Anya at the mic, as she heads off around the packed exhibition spaces here to chat with the many startups who have pitched up to the summit, aiming to link up with potential investors. I gather Anya has something education related for us. Here goes.
My name is Arnobio Morelix. I'm co-founder and CEO at Serious Education. So we are Serious Education, and we're a university for the professionals of the future. We're fully fledged accredited college here in Latin America, teaching young career professionals really the new skills that are being required in the job market today. There's a number that guides a lot of what we do. That number is 65%. 65% of young people today are going to work at a job that doesn't even exist yet, according to the World Economic Forum. And what we built is from scratch, a fully fledged, accredited higher education institution teaching things like AI, blockchain, Web3, data analytics, and much more.
What kind of people sign up for this?
So really, the students that study with us and build their careers with us, they're typically early in their careers. They are, late 20s to early 30s. They're already working at a job, and really it's a traditional economy job that they're feeling maybe might not make the switch to a future economy. So we have things like, logistics coordinators at AB InBev. We have people like finance, in the finance department of large companies. And these people are figuring out like, hey, what I learned in school is not gonna get me to the next level. I need to upskill, I need to learn these new professions of the future if I wanna have a future in the job market.
It sounds like an amazing idea and a really forward-thinking idea, but it's not going to be cheap, is it?
Well, actually, it's quite affordable. So most of our programs are $2,000 to $3,000. That's like the typical average ticket, not per month, not per year, for the whole thing. So you conclude your master's programs, your MBA, but $2,000 to $3,000. The way we're able to do it is really threefold. Number one, instead of doing the program by ourselves, we partner with online schools with creators. They are in the forefront of their markets. So, think of someone like Edu Pires, one of our partners. So he's one of the best programmers in Latin America for a specific coding language. He was already teaching people online. He's got an audience, but he was never going to be in higher education if it wasn't for us. So that's the number one thing we do. We partner with people that have followings, that are great teachers already, but are not yet in the university system. Number two is we build from scratch with AI in mind. So we launched our AI tutor January 2023. We're the first higher education institution to launch a large language model-based AI tutor. So that means we can do things
in Brazil,
scalably.
Yeah?
Say what?
First one in Brazil.
The first one in Brazil, as far as I know, the world. So we had global coverage of that at the time. And so we built that from scratch. So that means we can make a high-quality, scalable online learning experience. And then finally, we take advantage of peer learning communities. So the truth is we know since 1984 what works for education. That's research from Benjamin Bloom, and it's three things that makes for higher quality education. Hands-on learning, one-on-one tutoring, and learning from your peers. The reason we don't do this at scale, even though we've known that's what works to teach people since 1984, is it's too expensive. But today, for the first time ever in the history of humanity, we can do that scalably. We can do that at low cost, leveraging AI tutors, leveraging online learning communities, and that's how we build Sirius to deliver value for our students.
And I assume it's in Portuguese, yeah?
So most of the programs are in Portuguese with some modules in English, yes. Really, we think that we're living in the middle of the biggest industrial revolution humanity has ever seen, and every industrial revolution demands an education revolution. And for everybody that's with us today or listening, I invite you to think how you can be a part of this education revolution as a learner, as a teacher, as a mentor.
And we'll be back with more at the same time next week. Our producer, editor, and CEO, my goodness, is Anya Liktorovich. Big thanks, by the way, to the technical team here who have been recording this podcast with us. We really appreciate you making us sound so good. See you next time, folks. Take care, and bye-bye.
Hi, everyone. It's Michael Calore, Director of Consumer Tech and Culture at Wired, here with my colleagues, senior writer Lauren Good.
Hello.
And Wired contributor Zoe Schiffer.
Hey, everyone.
We're here to tell you about our new podcast, Uncanny Valley, a show about the people, power, and influence of Silicon Valley.
Every week, we get together to talk about how technology and culture from the Valley is influencing our everyday lives.
We dig into questions like, will we ever get our privacy back? Is OpenAI for real? And how are Silicon Valley billionaires impacting U.S. elections?
The first episode of Uncanny Valley comes out on October 31st. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.